Thank the gentleman, Mr. Rooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the remarks, especially on the other side, for I think raising the exact issue that I have with why we're looking at a substitute in an amendment. What has been said that the prosecution would be jeopardized, in my opinion, it already has, by the very fact that we have discarded the military commission system, we have discarded the military tribunal system for these potential defendants. As a former judge advocate, one of the big questions I have, which is why I support the underlying resolution, is why. And I don't know if this would affect the prosecution in New York or not. But I think as a body that has supported military commissions, and as a country that has supported military commissions from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War to World War II, throughout our history, what has changed? What is the JAG Corps, what has the military tribunal system done to merit disregard at this point? I think that when you talk about the way that due process can get the convictions that we need without all of this information coming out, as is the concern on the other side, the military commissions would provide the due process that I think that the detainees should have without having to jeopardize some of the information that they're worried that this resolution will come out. And I guarantee you, once the trials start, that information will come out anyway. And the things that concern me specifically with that deals with criminal procedure. I mean, put yourself in the position of a federal judge that has one of these defendants in front of them, and you know right well that a defense attorney, if they're worth their salt, will begin objecting time and time again to evidence being presented. As soon as an objection comes out that this defendant wasn't Mirandized, a federal judge is going to have to think to themselves, for the first time in my career as a judge, am I going to allow this evidence anyway? Once evidence is being presented that has been gained after what this administration has termed as torture, a federal judge is going to have to consider seriously whether or not to allow that evidence in anyway. And we have questions of jurisdiction, obvious questions of jurisdiction. We have questions, we're going to have questions of venue. We all know that. And the list goes on. Chain of custody. How are we going to present evidence that was gained by clandestine agents? In this country, you're allowed to confront your accuser and confront the evidence that's brought against you. What's going to happen when we have to bring those CIA agents down to New York City to testify? Well, they've just been outed. What about the sources that we use abroad? How can we be guaranteed that they won't be killed by the people that they're ratting on, so to speak? These are all questions that a military commission we could securely prosecute through that system. And my question is, why aren't we doing that? And these questions that the resolution asks would give us those answers. I don't know how that would effectuate the underlying trial, but I just want to close, Mr. Chairman, with this thought. I asked Mr. Holder in the Judiciary Committee why we're closing Gitmo, as Mr. Marshall is concerned as am I. And he said, well, because it's the perception that the rest of the world has with America, the perception that the United States of America and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, treats people that we should be embarrassed about. And I've been there, and I can say that the men and women in uniform that are detaining the detainees are doing a great job, and the facility there is as good as any facility we have in this country that the American taxpayers have paid for. But aside from that, what is the perception going to be around the world after the president and after this administration has said these trials are going to be a slam dunk? Well, if these trials are a slam dunk and these defendants are acquitted because of questions of Miranda or questions of torture, questions of evidence and chain of custody and the like, and they're acquitted, but we re-detain them anyway, what kind of message is that going to send to the world? That in our federal judicial system, we acquit people, but we send them back to jail anyway just because. That's the way it's going to be, because it's going to be a slam dunk, and we don't need to worry about it. I think that sends a much worse message than having a facility that the perception of Guantanamo Bay is much different than the reality, and therefore I request that the resolution be reconsidered.
Thank the gentleman. There's supposed to be votes in about 35 minutes, so we're going to